What's up, YouTube? Thanks, guys and gals, for joining me here. We're having a reboot. I had reshot this live cast a little bit earlier, but ran into some pretty severe technical problems. So all that aside, we're back online. Sorry for that. If you're joining me again, or you want to get back on the live stream, ask some questions, comment, make suggestions. I'd be happy to field those. Let's get into it. We're looking at the Black Bottle collection from Odin out of New York City. New York State, obviously, United States of America, USA. So this is the 6th bottle in the lineup. It's actually really the 5th scent in the Black Line collection or Black Bottle collection. There is not an actual 5. And yes, it confused the heck out of me, as it may have yourself, but it doesn't. They don't have a 5. I don't know if that's bad luck for them, but no 5. It goes from 4 to 6. Let's get into it. This dropped back in 2011 from, I think his last name is Vespoor or Verspoor. He's, I believe, of Dutch extraction. The nose, yes, Kevin Verspoor. And again, it's about 9 years old. It's about eight to 9 years old, depending on when you figure it was actually formulated before it dropped. And then they do quite a few tests and stuff. So this is really the better part of a full 10 years old, in truth, if not slightly longer in terms of its actual start of the experimental phase. At any rate, again, all the black bottles are unisex. Let's get into it, guys. Notes on this are going to be in your top: blood orange, green galbanum, lentisk, or mastic. Those words are kind of interchangeable. We'll get into that a little bit later. In the heart, you get cedar leaf, jasmine sambac, magnolia, and finally in the base, amberwood, sheer musk, and live moss. Not dead moss, live moss. Okay, cheap joke. That's the bottle. That's the color of the juice. I'm starting to sort of dig into that a bit. I'm going to spray one more blast. This time, I've already got some here, so why not a little bit here? Wow, what an opening. Easily one of my favorite openings and one of my favorite scents in the entire collection. Having said that, it does have a couple of drawbacks. It's definitely not for everybody, but it probably could be for most people. But let's get into some of the strengths, and we'll talk about some of the distinct weaknesses. Really not only endemic to this, to number 6, Amanu, which, by the way, a little tidbit of trivia: Amanu is an tiny island or atoll, however you want to say that, in French Polynesia. And if you were to draw a horizontal line through the, around the globe, cutting directly through the Amanu and those atollic islands there in French Polynesia, you would come to within about 80 miles south of Lima, Peru, for example. And you would also be cutting well into the northern territories of Australia, and so on and so forth. But anyways, love the opening, guys. The opening is lush. It's verdant. That blood orange absolutely pops up with that jasmine sambac, the lentisk. What mastic or lentisk smells like, sort of, is a mix between pine, cedarwood, although not with that pencil shaving type cedarwood, just more of that generic, slightly piney, slightly cedarwood. The needles, the foliage, the wood, the moss. But what really lifts this fragrance, and I should add, the blood orange it's strangely present through most of the journey, but that initial juicy, edible quality of the blood orange pretty much fades in about the first 15 to 25 minutes, give or take. And then after that, you can still kind of smell it, but it doesn't have that 3D juicy edible, I just want to take a bite out effect. It's just much more muted and softer. Not as good in that regard. But the green galbanum, the lentisk, again, that mastic or lentisk gives a very sort of that green carminative smell of, it could be sandalwood, it could be cedarwood, it could be a little bit piney, that type of thing. But that jasmine sambac, guys, and that magnolia, along with the cedar leaf, combining with the amberwood in the base, the musk, and the moss, really, really lift this into sort of almost a hybrid fougere, a slightly sheeprick type, almost a traditional throwback scent It's somewhat gentle. I would say this veers masculine, but definitely not all that much. It's probably 60-40 if I had to guess. Definitely unisex, as is the entire black bottle collection. The white bottles, again, guys, are exclusively female designed and marketed products. I mean, you can certainly rock them if that is your MO and you're a guy, why not? But they're definitely going to smell hyper feminine in a good way. I'm not trying to ruffle feathers or whatever, but at least in a classical sense. Okay, strengths versus weakness. This smells great. Wonderful, juicy opening. I wish that blood orange was really, really 3D like and juicy all the way through. But in general, that's the bane of pretty much all citric and, for the most part, most fruit oriented based scents. But some do it better than others, whatever. Again, that jasmine, sambac, sambac, the magnolia, the cedar leaf, combining beautifully with the musk and the amberwood. Amberwood really, I think, is just a molecular, what's the word, aroma chemical that has really been designed to combine aspects of a woody or woodsy smell with those of amber, again, which is a fantasy note, of course, but that sort of rich, lush, sort of warm, slightly caramelic type effect that amber kind of gives, with almost like a heliotrope with some aldehydes thrown in, a little bit of cinnamon kind of thing, a little bit of a vanillic type of aspect. To me, a lot of those things are sort of the way modern ambers are typically translated, almost with a hint of like ginger or like a one of those red spice candies. But of course, they're all different, and it depends on the way that the perfumer utilizes these ingredients. This is a wonderful scent, guys. One of my favorite in the entire lineup. I think anyone can rock this. But again, if you lean towards extra pungent or really, really strong, loud, super heavy, super dark, super spicy fragrances, you're not going to be impressed by this at all. This is a fairly intimate scent. I won't go so far as to say skin scent, but having said that, it's a very intimate scent, and it will definitely die down to a skin scent within about the first 4 hours or so. Now, it will live there on skin much, much longer than that. Much longer than that. Don't freak out. Looking for this to really give you adequate coverage, protection, sillage, so on and so forth. You're going to really need to spray heavy and get quite a bit on your clothes. If you do that, you should be good for an easy 6 to 8 hours. But again, this will never be a loud shotgun type fragrance. It's not going to blow anyone out of the cubicle. And in fact, sadly, some of your coworkers may struggle to smell you even at arm's length unless you walk in freshly applied and just, you've just gunned it with like 40 spritzes or something. It's just not that type of scent, nor is the line for that matter. This is a fairly, in terms of sillage and projection, this is a very modest restraint. It's almost an East Asian approach to scent. These are all intimate scents. None of these, for the most part, with the exception of maybe one or two, none of them are loud, and none of them give just like shotgun performance, just that dramatic loud effect. That's just not the way they're designed. The DNA of the chemical composition is simply not designed for that. But having said all this, you can still get this online for about $100, give or take, fully boxed. Again, these are all, to my knowledge, mostly out of production. So word to the wise, if you want this, you better act fast before it goes the way of the dodo bird. And then for what few bottles may remain, you will be asked to pay an arm and a leg, metaphorically, financially speaking. And no one wants to do that. These retailed, I believe, for around between $175 and around $215-ish, maybe $225 full retail. So definitely never were cheap. They're much cheaper now, with the exception of one or two that are still available. But because those dealers know that you just can't get them for love or money, they are indeed asking for about full retail when they came out. So you won't be able to get those bottles for under about $200 to $250, or in some cases even $300 or more. You sleep, you snooze, you lose. Anyways, guys, it's been a pleasure. Sorry for the earlier technical difficulties. MS, hello. Hi, Andre. Hi guys, I just tabbed back to my live chat feed. I did not know you guys had joined. Let me read some of the chat talk. No, Andre, I wouldn't say it leans feminine at all. In fact, I would say this skews masculine, but only by about maybe 5 to 10%. Definitely unisex, but I would say this has a lot of old school male fougere present. But again, that blood orange, and for the fact that everything is sort of soft and round, definitely plays to feminine sensibilities. But I would say overall, it's still probably at least 55 to 60% male skewed towards the masculine, if that makes sense. It's a really good unisex scent for sure, and definitely one of my favorites in the entire lineup. Let me take Mitch's or Mike's comment. He says he was making blood orange vodka spritzes Wednesday last week. Very cool. With Andre's question, so that's an 8 out of 10. I'm going to say probably, okay, for what it is, yes, right? But to be quite blunt, I'm making some slight tolerances or excuses for this line in the sense that I'm judging the line for what I think the line's vision is. If you were telling me, is this line like on a per scent basis, on a per perfume basis, do you think they can really go head to head with perfumes like Creed, House of Amouage, Maison Francis Kurkdjian of France for like $250 to $300? No, I don't. Sadly, I don't think this line at all can go. I think it can go toe to toe conceptually. I don't think it goes toe to toe in terms of either noses nor recipes, nor quite the ingredients. The ingredients are excellent in this line, but they're definitely not at the level of a Maison Francis Kurkdjian, nor necessarily at the level of a Creed, nor even at the level of a House of Amouage, although they're probably closer to Amouage in a rudimentary sense. The recipes are nothing like the House of Amouage, but I feel like it had this house intentionally gone in with the idea of aping or replicating the sensibilities, right? The aesthetic of a House of Amouage in terms of olfactory recipes, and I think that would be probably fairly easy to say they could do that. So, in other words, if I was judging the line just strictly based on economics, I'd probably rate this scent as a 7.5 out of 10. But because I believe I know what Odin is going for, I would give it a legitimate 8 out of 10. I think that's fair. If that makes any kind of sense, I think for the Odin line, this is a legit 8 out of 10. If I was going harder at it, right, saying just pure money power, $150 type fragrance, $175 type fragrance, I think maybe they missed the mark a little bit. Thus knocking down to more like a 7, if that makes sense. But I think if you're an Odin fan, this is more like an 8, if that makes any kind of sense. It's to MS's point, this is probably a little bit more pedestrian than a lot of the stuff that's more nichey, more artistic, more avant-garde, or just plain higher dollar. You know, once we get into really, really elite levels on economies of scale of perfumery, it's not so much that you're dealing niche, it's the fact that you're paying for great ingredients by a great nose for a scent that you absolutely believe is signature worthy. At that level, you're paying anywhere from $400 to $750 a bottle or more if you can roll like that. But you're paying at least an honest to God 150 minimum. You might get a discount type niche house, indie house, or a luxe house from a foreign country like France, Italy, Germany, et cetera, where you can get a really great perfume for about $150, $170, $180 US that can absolutely slug it out. I mean, virtually against anything, basically. It can just go toe to toe with a $500 bottle of juice like nobody's business. It may not best it, but it will absolutely hold its own. So that's an area where I'm a little resentful at a lot of houses of perfumery, because knowing that they have the firepower and the capabilities for about $175 US, let's just say 200 to keep it safe, they could absolutely bring it. They could bring something that's worthy of a $500, $600, $700 bottle of juice and sell it all day, every day for about maybe 225 or 250. And they don't do that. You know why? Simple greed. I'm going to leave it at that. Simple greed or lack of talent, or both. Okay, I'm going to read a few more comments out, and then we're going to call it a night, guys. It's getting kind of late, and I do have other things to attend to, believe it or not. But let me read some of these comments. Let me lean back and read it better. Andre says, I'd rather go for something great and soft than a mainstream beat. That's fair, Andre, and I think, you might absolutely find this right up your alley. It's really, really good. The opening is the best part about it, but it is legitimately really good fragrance for sure. It just goes a little bit soft, a little bit muted. It's very round, but it's very, very good. It's green, it's fruity, it's cedary, it's a little bit piquant. It's nuanced. It has a certain amount of it has levels. It has some depth, some dimension to it. But that opening is just phenomenal. I wish the opening would just play through all the way, and then this fragrance would live near the pinnacle of the best that perfumery has to offer. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite do that. Also, maybe a little zingier, a little spicier in the opening would be nice. But having said all that, still a pretty delicious fragrance overall, especially for the summer and the spring. You could do this year round, no doubt, but it's really not designed to go hard in the winter nor the fall. But you could do it, especially if you're going to work only scent. Why not? What else? MS says, what is an arm and a leg? More than 300 inches. Yeah, very funny, MS. Obviously, it's just an old idiomatic American and or English expression stating that you're basically having to give too much for what you're being asked. But you probably already know that. But again, we're looking at Odin 06. For anyone now joining us, this is the bottle. This is the box. Ba-bam. Bottles all look alike in the black bottle series. Obviously, if you can see that, I've eked out a fairly large part of the juice. I spray heavy, and I really do dig this fragrance a lot, especially for summer and spring. Okay, any other comments of interest? Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if it was YouTube glitches, Andre. He's talking are just technical issues on my end. A neighbor of mine just had an entire outage of their internet and cable, and it's more than probable that I was somehow adversely affected by that. Not 100% sure, whatever. It's all good now. What else? Let's see. At Birmingham. Okay. Like 07, but not mind blowing. Yeah. Andre says like 07, which we'll be looking at in my next vid, but not mind blowing or mind blowing. Yeah. Any preview on 08? Ceylon? No, but it's coming soon, Andre. I promise. Yeah, and again, Andre, I want to stress that, again, as a fan of Odin, I give it a solid 8. But if I was coming at this house as a non-fan of the line, like not in sync with the vision of that, I believe that I understand Odin's mission statement and their sensibilities, I'm trying to judge Odin more like a Japanese person would judge a Honda or a Nissan or Japanese artwork or Asian artwork for that matter. You have to understand the inside sensibility, and then you judge it. It's easy for outsiders to judge a foreigner's art, be it perfumery or any other aesthetic, housing, architecture, cars, even electrical equipment, although to a lesser extent, electrical equipment is more of a technical aspect. I just think that I get the sensibility of Odin, but if I didn't, and I just came at Odin like a real snobby perfume guy from Europe. Not that you have to be snobby to be from Europe. My ancestors are largely from Europe, but just not judging it with an insider's view of the sensibility. I think I would probably maybe even go as low as a 6.5 for this fragrance, to be quite brutal. But I'm not coming at it from that perspective. For me, I quite like the fragrance. I'm giving it a solid 8. End of story. So if that makes any kind of sense, I hope that that works for you guys. Yeah, and then MS talks about Russian Atom, who's a very well-known global Russian-based perfumer who has really, really elite, fairly pricey, but with top-notch ingredients. So I'm told, and so I've read online, that it's supposed to be just the cat's meow if you're into that sort of thing, a sort of elite, niche, artisanal, yet also fairly high dollar fragrance, quite high dollar, let's be honest. But it is what it is. He has a huge fan base online. Yeah, and again, right. And Andre points out that Odin's MSRPs are around the $200 price mark. Well, right, Andre. I understand that, but I still think you have to go into a line understanding what is that line's MO, what is their mission statement, what is their aesthetic, what is their entire philosophy, right? I truly believe that Odin, as they're co-led by an Asian guy and a Anglo or white guy. It's a pair. I believe the Asian guy, for my assumptions, I could be wrong, is bringing in a lot of sort of that Asian aesthetic, that influence, because you can sell these a lot easier in Far East Asia than you can in a weird way here in the US. What I mean by that is you can meet the criteria, you can appeal to the Far East Asian sensibility of olfactory aesthetic and aestheticism because these fit the philosophy. I still think these use great ingredients. So it's, on the one hand, you're going to smell great ingredients here for sure. You're going to smell really, really good ingredients blended by an expert nose. The question you have to ask, A, which side of the line am I on as a perfume guy or gal? Am I more into niche? Am I more into high-end designer? Am I into more cheap style designer? Am I into artisanal quarterly batch type stuff that costs a lot and you only get tiny bottles of like 10 to 20 to 30 mils? It really, really depends where we are on our journey, what we like, what we gravitate towards, and what we're trying to really say about ourselves in a given moment, in a given day, in a given season. Having said all this, if you're someone that's merely going to compare this to like an average, really, really good perfume by like Maison Francis Kurkdjian of Paris, who has a very, very, very particular style of doing things in terms of perfumery. It's very identifiable. It smells great for what it is. It has this sort of sheer ambroxan-driven heliotrope. What's that word? It has all those little sparkly aspects to it, right? It's very sparkly. It's almost metallic, sheer, brilliant, sparkling, fizzy, I think is a good word. This is nothing like any of that. So if you're going to go in and say this is boring because it's not that, it's boring and pedestrian because it's not heavy and dark and oody and pungent, well, that's fine, but that's your MO and that's your right to do that. I don't think it's fair to this line to say that, but it's fair as an end user to say, well, I'm not going to drop $200 on this because it doesn't blow my socks off. I think that's fair. And look, guys and gals, at the end of the day, you vote with your dollar. You vote with your nose, but you spend with your dollar. You know what I mean? You're not going to be blown away with the fragrance if it doesn't absolutely fit your style, your sensibility. And if it doesn't really impress you, it doesn't matter what I say or what or Francis Kurkdjian tells you. At the end of the day, I put these best fragrance in, best ingredients, best recipe. If you don't think that style blows you away, it doesn't matter what any of us tell you. You're going to vote with your nose and you're going to spend with your wallet. So in a way, your nose is voting for your wallet, how you spend. Now, I will say this, in light of the fact that you can get a lot of these guys online now for as cheap as $50 US, I'm just going to throw the box. That's a no-brainer, guys. That's an absolute no-brainer. You're getting a 200 bottle of juice for as low as 45, 50, 60, 70, maybe $100. Even at 100, you're saving half price. I think that brings in a whole new dynamic where maybe allows some of us to get our head around the fact that, okay, but I'm not dropping $200. I'm not dropping 225 euro. I'm dropping 80 US or euro. I think that makes a lot more of an attractive proposition, if you will. That's funny. Andre said, no mic drop, just the box drop. That's hilarious. I'm going to read a few more comments, guys, before we call it a night. But I will be glad in the meanwhile to field any more suggestions or comments, questions before I get to the bottom of the chat. So just give me a couple seconds here to get through this thing, several seconds rather. Four now. Yeah, and I agree. Andy's, we're talking about tower stuff. Andy Tower is obviously phenomenal house, but it is a little bit still. It's artisanal. It's nichey. You know, Andy doesn't really gauge his stuff towards the masses per se. It's skewed a little left of center. You know what I mean, or a little right of center. It's really not for the masses. It's definitely not for the strictly designer. The designer target audience. You know, Andy's stuff, it's really good. It's a little bit polarizing. It's definitely not for everybody, but I really dig the house. No, yeah, without question, phenomenal perfume. A little pricey, but a bargain when you think about what you're getting, the presentation, the bottling, and the ingredients, the nose, and the sensibility and the overall olfactory aesthetic. I think it's an absolute high value proposition without any doubt, for sure. Again, not to everyone's taste, so that's okay. That's why there's a house called Tower, and that's why there's all these other houses like Armani, Creed, Amouage, etc. Okay, what else? I agree. If I'm going to drop 200, I definitely want it to be really as excellent as possible, as creative as possible within reason. And I want it to really let me say this, guys, and feel free to give me some feedback on what your thoughts are on this. If I'm dropping in excess of 175 even US or euro, it had better perform. It had better give me the longevity, the projection, and the sillage that I think that kind of money absolutely demands. If you give me something that vapes out after 4 to 6 hours, I'll probably never buy it again. If it doesn't project past 2 inches, I'll never buy it again. And if it doesn't leave a decent sillage trail during the first 4 to 6 hours, I'm probably never going to buy it again. All things being equal. So I will say that once my price point pushes past 140, 150 kind of terrain, it had really better perform. Like more even than being ultra creative, more even than being blowing my socks off. It can still be really good. But if the performance is lackluster, I'll probably never buy it again. Just FYI. Just gonna get that out there. Yeah, I've already tried some oud from Tower, and it really was phenomenal. I will definitely revisit that in the future, wallet permitting. My bottles are out of control. My collection is already getting ginormous. In fact, my parents have seen some of my collection, and they're already telling me, stop buying perfume. What are you doing? They don't get it. They don't get it. And I admit, to a certain extent, I'm starting not to get it just in terms of new bottles. I really don't need new bottles. I need new vials or decants. Yeah, I need to really move into the decant terrain, sadly. Not just for economic purposes, but just for sheer doesn't make sense anymore. I won't have room. I really want to. I don't know where I'll put my bottles. I don't know. At any rate, let's see. Okay, Andre says, that said, SBF Odin are now retailing for 57 in eBay. Full bottles, that means. So at that price point, yeah. Guys, it's a no-brainer at that price point, honestly. Andre wants a review of Ceylon tonight. Not going to happen, Andre, but fantastic, fantabulous try. And then Andre goes on to say he loves Tower. since I love Piguet, dude, which is phenomenal. I love me the house of Robert Piguet, Robert Piguet. If any of you guys out there have not tried the house of Robert Piguet, please, for the love of God, get your hands on it. Especially if you can find them at online discounters. Absolute mega no-brainers. Performance is beast mode on Robert Piguet stuff. I've never yet found a weak one. Do not believe the crap online about sillage and projection dying off for 2 hours. It's absolutely untrue for the bulk of the Piguet house stuff. I'll leave it at that. That's my opinion. And then Andre leaves off with phenomenal. So does my collection. So does my girlfriend. Okay, Andre, I won't tell anyone else about the house of Piguet. It's our secret. Don't get me wrong, guys. Robert Piguet house sells a lot of still current stuff only through their, well, not only, but primarily only through their website. And if you buy through that website, yes, you're going to spend absolute nutty money. You're going to spend top dollar cray money on bottles that I'm sure are worth it, both creatively and especially ingredients wise, nose wise. But when you get used to buying and finding steals and deals, like a lot of the Piguet stuff for as cheap as like, I don't know, $60 to $80 US, and all of a sudden you're being asked to drop $2 to $225 to $250 or even more, God forbid. It's like a stab in the heart, literally. It's like, no, what are you doing? I was buying similar bottles, last year for like $80 or less, or in some cases $45. Don't tell anyone. Anyways, I'll leave it alone at that. And then Andre says he tried the Piguet Oud 1 month ago, blew him away. I agree. It's incredible stuff. Fracas also, but an inch too feminine. Yeah, I understand that. It's a little feminine for sure. I would say Fracas is definitely unisex, but it's skewed about maybe 60-40 feminine versus male. That's my opinion. Anyway, I don't know why MS is not chimed in again. If you're out there still watching, it's all good. And definitely try Odin if you haven't. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining me, guys and gals. And to everyone else out there watching, but maybe just too nervous to chime in, thanks for watching. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. To those who watched the earlier drop of the vid with those technical difficulties, so sorry about that. If you missed, I really apologize. But you can always catch me on the rebound. On the rewind. Excuse me, rebound. At any rate, guys, got to go. Spray often, spray well. Live life on your terms. This has been a review and an overall talk about perfumery in general and my thoughts on Odin 06 in particular. Peace out. Love you guys. Y'all been great. See you soon, hopefully. Peace.